Tootsie Gang, Tootsie 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 Gang. Welcome back, and if you're new, welcome. So, today we are going to continue with Skin of the Sea. Yeah. Skin of the Sea, chapters 13, 14, and 15. We have a little visitor again with us. Hopefully you guys don't mind. You gonna hang out with us? Yeah. Okay, we'll start with chapter 13. Alright, you ready, my love? Finish your body. Yeah. Okay, chapter 13. We don't know anything for sure yet, I say to Kola, trying to keep my tone calm. But why didn't he tell me about the twins before? Is it just that he doesn't trust me? He acted as if summoning Yamoja was his first time meeting an Orisha, and now this. And then I think of his need to protect the children, and not mentioning their power makes more sense. At the thought of kept secrets, I think of my vision. Perhaps I should say something about the death, the Yumbos, and the village. Shuddering, I push thoughts of it away. I try to tell myself that what I saw doesn't mean anything, but even as I think this, I know it's not true, but I do know that I can't tell anyone else about it until I understand what it means myself. Both Kola and Salif are worried enough. Before I can give it more thought, the older Yumbo claps his hands together. I hope all of you are well. Do not worry. We will work on finding out what this means. All signs need to be understood, not feared just because they are unknown. So, in the interim, let us finish the feast. The Yumbos nodded Salif's instruction. The Oloran Luau fled about, clearing the silver platters and banking the fire as the sun dips behind the tree. Yumbos, the energy seemingly drawn out of them, are dotted in groups around the glade, speaking quietly. There is one more thing that adds to what has happened. I am not sure if this is connected, and I do not wish to worry the others, so I will say this only to you. Salif turns to us with a solemn face, his hands clasped in front of him. Some of the Yumbos have been out gathering, and our brothers have only just returned. Salif pauses before picking up a wooden cup again and then putting it down. They overheard the men talk of Isu on the borders of our lands. Isu? I ask uneasily. Why would his name be mentioned? It is not the first time we have heard it lately, says Salif. There are rumors. Go on, says Kola, his face drawn, as he swallows carefully. I see worry and concern in the molten amber of Salif's eyes, and I think I know what he's going to say. Rumors that he is searching for something. Oya said the same. If the Babalao has the rings and Taiwo and Kahindi are in Oko, I look over at Kola. I worry I feel matching the expression on his face. We need to leave, I say quietly, my words taut with apprehension. First Iso arrives on Abiomi's ship, and now his presence is being spoken about closer to Oko. Kola nods, his expression as grim as mine as he gets to his feet. Allow us to present you with supplies, says Salif, tasking his grandson with the responsibility. Isa, the job giving him some energy, orders the other Yumbos around, changing the water skins they have for bigger ones and inspecting all the fish wrapped in banana leaves. You have to pull them tight or they will spoil, he admonishes a boy larger than him. The Yumbo huffs but begins to wrap the food again. Isa nods in satisfaction, then darts over to Kola. I want to help, he says. Come now, Isa, let them prepare, says Salif, tucking the boy under his arm. But I can help. The Yumbo darts from under his grandfather's grip and runs over to us, his eyes never leaving Kola. He snatches the sack from a Yumbo, heading toward us. Dragging it quickly along, he drops it at our feet and looks up at us, golden eyes shining. I can guide you to Oko. That's where you are heading, no? At this, Kola bends down, a slight smile on his lips. We appreciate your hospitality, but you are very young. Your place is here. Please, Isa cries and turns to Sleeve. Grandfather, they might get lost, or they'll take the long way and not get there for days. We all felt whatever that was earlier. They need to get to Oko fast. I can help them do that. Kola stills at the mention of time, and I know he is wavering. Grandfather, I have scouted before. Please let me. I know all the paths and tracks to take, the routes to avoid. Isa puffs his narrow chest out. They need me. I consider the Yumbo with his tiny stick-like arms and his pointed chin. He flips his head, pushing plaits from his eyes and watching Kola, who looks down at him with a tenderness that makes me uneasy. We don't need someone else to look after. Kola, I don't think that's a good idea. It could take you days if you don't go the right way, says Isa, offering Kola a grin. I can get you there in half the time. It would help, says Kola softly. Isa beams at him and then turns his honey gaze on me. I can do it, Simi. I can. Kola places a hand on his shoulder and looks at me, too. If he can guide us there, we need him. Besides, he pats Isa on his head. You'll be good company. I will be, the Yumbo grins up at Kola, jiggling from foot to foot. But his smile is sweet, and we really can't afford to waste any more time getting to the village. I nod. If Iso does know the rings are in Oko, we need to get there first. Grandfather? Asks Isa. Salif takes a moment to think before answering the Yumbo. I give you my permission, little one, but only as a guide. He holds up a finger. Nothing else. Isa scrambles around the sack, tripping. I will get my things. You will need to come straight back after they reach Oko, calls Salif. Straight back. I will, Isa throws over his shoulder as he scurries off. I'll look after him as if he were my little brother, says Kola, pressing his open palm to his heart. I promise. Make sure that you do, Salif bows, mirroring Kola's action. I would like to know what caused the feeling that affected us. We need to know if we are still safe here. He waits as Kola checks the bag, extracting a short sword that he slips into the tight folds of his wrapper. We are grateful, Salif. To have saved me and now allow us a guide, we are blessed. You have my thanks, and as much corn as you wish to take once I get back to Oko. I will collect on that promise, answers Salif, managing to crack a smile as Isa runs back, giving him a quick hug before he comes to stand by our sides. One more thing we can give you. Salif holds out a tiny bag. The Abad allows us to harvest part of her horns every few years. There is a small amount in there. It can be mixed with water to drink or used to make a poultice. Either way, it will cure almost anything. Salif nods solemnly. We will bless your journey with dance and prayer. While Isa tucks the powder into his sack with our supplies, Kola nods, returning the gesture. And I thank you for rescuing me and making both of us welcome. I will be back, says the small Yumbo, throwing a grin at his grandfather. Do not worry. Salif reaches down and kisses Isa on both of his cheeks, taking a moment to stare into his eyes. Remember, stay safe and return once you have guided them. The Yumbo nods eagerly, spinning away to grab at the sack, but Kola plucks it from Isa's grip, ignoring the boy's protests. The rest of the Yumbos begin to sing softly as the gang drums begin again, beats that reverberate all around, bidding us goodbye as we head toward the sunset-soaked tree line. Isa skips ahead, moving fast as he chatters to Kola, taking pride in leading us through the easiest paths. And what is this plant? Kola points to a large bush, its leaves spiny and dark green. Little brother, Isa lifts his face to Kola as he talks about the Aganda coffee plant, plucking some of the ripened cherries that produce beans. My grandfather loves the bitter drink they make, so I collect lots for him. Isa tucks the cherries into the bag and skips ahead, looking back over his shoulder at us. Come on, this way. We follow the Yumbo through the forest, moving quickly through the crash of olive and lime foliage. Isa selects pathways that skirt the white mahogany and pear trees, leading us deeper where the air is more humid and the smell of rich earth rises to greet us with every footstep. He talks nonstop, making Kola laugh at one point. I drop back a little, my feet aching already. Flexing my toes, I take a moment to stretch the arches, taking a sip of water. Kola and Isa continue walking. The setting sun blazing through the canopy, the Yumbo reaches up and takes Kola's hand, hopping and jumping to keep up with the boy's stride. I hear another giggle and feel a shade of envy at how easy they are together already. Worse, I still can't push away the mention of Isu. That he has been rumored to be nearby only makes my stomach twist even tighter into knots. I force myself to quicken my pace as Kola turns around, looking back for me. How much further, Isa? I wipe my face, feeling sweat trickle into the folds of my wrapper. It is an uncomfortable feeling, and one I haven't experienced for a while. We'll reach the river soon, says Isa, as he pushes a large leaf out of his way. And then Oko is a few hours' walk from there. We should. The rest of the Yumbo's words were swallowed by the cracking sound that echo around the forest. We freeze. An owl calls out in the distance as the night claws more light from the day, and then the noise is there again, louder this time and coming nearer. Trees shake and it sounds as if thunder is striking the ground. Kola? He doesn't answer, but lifts Isa and backs up, standing slightly in front of me. My breath comes in panicked exhalations as the first creature bursts out of the trees directly in front of us. White tusks flash in the gloom along with the ears and hang down in great loops of tough gray skin. The large elephant sweeps a sapling out of her path, trumpeting loudly, lifting her thick gray legs. She barrels towards us, her eyes shining and rolling with fear. I drag Kola to the side as the elephant sweeps towards us, trampling bushes in her path, making way for the rest of the herd behind her. With our backs pressed against the rough bark of a white mahogany tree, I hold my breath as she stampedes past us, 4 smaller cows following with 2 calves that they shove along between them. One falls to the ground and cries out, but its mother nudges and pulls, dragging her baby up before it can be crushed. None look at us or take any notice of our presence. They move fast, running hard and leaving a ruined path of forest behind them. They can sense something too, Isa says from the safety of Kola's arms. He wiggles free and takes a tentative step in the direction the elephants came from. This is the way we need to head. Of course it is. Peering ahead as the shadows creep through the trees, I swallow and take 2 steps forward. Then let's go. I walk as fast as the ache in my feet will allow me, pushing the growing pain to the back of my mind. The elephants have cleared a path, but I can't stop thinking about the fear in their eyes, and the way the young calf was nearly stamped on in their haste to get away. From what? Salif said that the Yumbos had felt a disconnection from the land. Was that enough to scare the animals? I think of my vision and the rumors of Iso as another trickle of sweat runs down my back. I slip my fingers into the tight braids that crown my hair and pull out the dagger. Flicking its blade free, the weapon makes me feel better, but not by much. We pick our way through the destruction of the forest until my soles feel as if they are on fire with raw pain. I fight the urge to limp, relieved when I feel a tug deep in my stomach, and my skin crackles as if the scales are trying to slice their way through the water. It's close by. I can feel it. Hobbling a little faster, I'm rewarded with the rushing sounds of the river. If I can soak in the water for a bit, I know I'll feel better. The sound is clear now and growing louder, permeating the still night air that wraps around us. Isa scampers next to me and points to a bend. There, a river, he announces as the muted sound grows louder. He speeds ahead of me, little legs pumping as he vaults a fallen tree before spinning to face me. One we need to cross. We follow the Yumbo as he pushes through the undergrowth until the flowing water is revealed. I gaze around warily, trying to find a clue to what the elephants were running from, but there's nothing apart from the scent of stones and mud with the underlying rot. I push the unusual smell out of my mind and place the dagger back among my braids. Rivers are different from seas, that's all. Twilight shades the rocks that line the banks, and trees loom over the fast-running current. The eddying water calls to me, and I slink forward, eager to feel its coolness. I bend down, dipping a hand into the river, exhaling as I feel the silky slip of it. The thought of submerging myself in it all-encompassing. It looks deep, says Kola, peering over my shoulder. Will it help? Startled, I pause, reaching down before nodding. He noticed, I think, feeling a warmth spread across my chest and up my neck. I thought I had hidden my pain well. Good, Kola adds softly, his eyes lingering on me for a moment before he pads after the Yumbo. We can cross just over here. Isa parts a large leaf to reveal the first slats of a wooden bridge held together with thick rope. Are you sure this will take my weight? Kola eyes it critically. I'm definitely not as light as a Yumbo. Yes, it can hold many people, answers Isa, scampering ahead to the bridge. He jumps a few times to show us how sturdy it is. See? I watch them from the bank, feet already eased into the water, the scales developing quickly. The pain in my soles disappearing as my fin forms. Isa's already across the bridge, waving at Kola happily, the silver in his hair glittering in the moonlight. I submerge more of my legs until they fuse, gold and pink scales glinting. It feels so good that my eyelids flutter with pleasure and relief. I let the river swallow me, dipping underneath its surface and spinning in the chilled water. When I head back to the humid air, Kola is halfway across the bridge, and Isa is jumping about on the other side of the bank, clapping his hands. I smooth the curls from my shoulders and smile. I told you it was safe, the Yumbo crows. Kola looks up and waves, and it is at that moment wooden slats beneath his feet crack loudly, giving way and sending him plunging into the river. When he surfaces, splattering, I laugh and twirl in the water, letting the fan of my tail split the river's surface. Shall I come and help you? I cup my hands and shout, not bothering to hide my smirk. Drops of water sparkle in midair as Kola shakes his head. I'm fine. Oh, I am sorry, calls Isa, almost in tears. The wood must have rotted since we last crossed. Here, come to me and I will pull you out. I'm all right, little one, says Kola as he begins to swim to the bank. There's no need to get upset. As he cuts through the water with powerful strokes, I notice large bubbles that ripple from upstream. The smell of rot from earlier grows stronger, and I swim closer, examining the water, the hair on my arms rising when I see it surge. The river begins to churn, and then Kola is gone before I can speak, snatched beneath the surface. I dive under, but I can't see through all the mud in the river. Swimming back up, I gasp in the still air. Isa, did you see where he went? I yell. I scan the river wildly, but it's calm now. Small eddies, the only disturbance. The Yumbo shakes his head, his mouth pulled down, eyes wide. He crawls forward to the grassy lip of the bank. Kola, I call again, my hands making small circles as I hover just above the surface, half expecting him to peer, splash water at us and laugh. But the river is smooth, flowing quickly downstream. Atacola! There's a whirl in the middle, and the river starts to froth, as if beginning to boil. I pull my dagger free just as Kola bursts through the surface, clutched in the jaws of something both serpentine and strangely equine. Kola stretches out a hand to me as the creature rears up, his side clamped in its mouth. The rotten scent I caught earlier increases as the breath of the creature reaches me. 3 horns jut from the large head as yellow eyes roll from the river to the sky and then back to the water. With a thick, sinuous body and long neck, the creature looks just like its name, Devil Dragon. Ninki Nanka, Ninki Nanka, shouts Isa from the opposite bank, his voice high-pitched with panic. Kola struggles in the enormous jaws of the serpent as the serpent uncoils in the river, throwing waves of water over the banks. Horror snatches at my breath, and I am caught in the roll of the river as I fight to keep upright. Kola beats at the slick fur around the creature's face with his fists, gasping and gulping in air. Hold on, Kola, I shout, pulling my dagger free. Isa, what should I do? What is its weakness? The Ninkalanka will not eat him alive. It will drown him first like a crocodile, Isa shrieks, tears streaming down his pointed chin. You must stop it before it submerges. I nod and tighten my hold on the weapon. As the creature draws in a deep breath, coils tightening around the boy, I dive again. My scales flash in the murky water as the Ninkalanka sinks, dragging Kola with him. I swim down, heading to the center of the river, and the coiling mass I can just barely see. Clouds of brown burst and bloom in the water as the creature writhes in the mud. Kola is a thrashing blur. When I get closer, I see that his arms are sinking by his side, bubbles leaving his mouth. Don't give up, I think desperately, slashing at the Ninki Nanka's scales, dragging the dagger down through the beast's side. I am rewarded with a large bellow as it thrashes its giant head. The water is a mixture of silt and screams trapped in bubbles as Kola is dropped, sinking to the riverbed. I swim to him as moonlight brightens the depths, pushing him behind me as the creature dips down to us, baring its fangs, coiling and uncoiling, stirring the silt at the bottom of the river. It lunges forward and I strike again. With a twist of its brown furred head, the Ninki Nanka knocks the weapon from my hand and rears back. Behind me, Kola is running out of air. He scrabbles at my back as the Ninki Nanka swims toward us, opening the black maw of its mouth. I search for the gleam of gold or glitter of an emerald in the riverbed. I see the dagger, half hidden in the mud, as the monster draws closer, gnashing teeth as large as Isa. I snatch up my weapon and spin, trying to hold it steady in the churning current as the creature hurtles towards us. We are thrown about by motion in the water as Ninki Nanka almost upon us, before I think to try something else. Stop, I command, in the way I have always spoken to the sharks. Leave him. Kola's fingers clutch at me from behind, pulling me against his chest as the creature snaps its jaws shut and halts, retreating into the gloom of the river. I can still see its great head and the shimmer of its scales, but it's not attacking us. I take a gamble, pushing Kola toward the surface before he drowns. He shakes his head at me, but I shove him up. I hold my dagger point out, but the Ninki Nanka only glares at me, and I realize I am right. The creature has to do as I say. Wait, I swim closer, nerves coiled, blade ready. The Ninki Nanka opens its mouth in a gurgling hiss. I snatch a look above me, relieved to see Kola swimming to the bank. Looking back down, I see that the creature still has not moved. Snaking through the water, I approach the Ninki Nanka as it opens its mouth, several rows of teeth glinting from within. Why were you attacking us? I am close enough now to touch one of the 3 horns if I wanted, though I keep an arm's length away. We didn't attack you. The Ninki-Nanka snorts and roars. The water pulses with the sound, but I do not move. I do not show fear that is still wound around my spine, cold and tight. We know you did not, but you are here, and so are we, and we are hungry. We had to. Had to? There's no choice. The creature looks up at the moon wavering through the water. Already things are changing. What is changing? We cannot say. Curls float across my face. I push my hair away and hold the dagger toward a yellow eye, the emerald digging into my palm. The Ninki-Nanka opens its mouth, but I force my fear away, swimming forward and pushing the blade against the fur of the creature's face. Tell me. It watches me with a baleful gaze, teeth flashing, its jaws quiver, and I know it would like nothing better than to close them around my flesh. The land. What about it? It is changing. Can you not feel it, or do you only feel water? The creature wiggles slowly. I press the tapered blade tighter among the fur, sliding it down the skin to the Ninki-Nanka's cheek. Feel what? But I'm already remembering the stampede of elephants. The balance is gone. The land and all on it will slowly rot. It's happening already, the creature grins. And soon you will die with it. The Ninki-Nanka licks his gray-stained teeth. I will still eat you, even if your limbs are blackened with disease and death. It looks up at me, tongue retreating. All will die, but I will still need to eat. Before I can think any more, the creature opens its mouth wide and bellows, and I am not sure how long my commands will work on it. I act fast, pressing the dagger into the creature's neck, forcing it deeper as the loud squeal spreads throughout the water. The Ninki-Nanka snaps its jaw, trying to bite me, but each time I twist just enough to stay out of its reach. When the creature stops roaring, I yank the golden blade free, swimming to the surface as it retreats. Simi, over here, Issa leans from the bough of the tree, bending down toward the river. Are you hurt? Kola lies next to the boy. One hand reaches for me, while the other is clamped on his side. Issa helps me from the water, and I feel Kola's gaze on me. I flop into my back, squinting against the sun as it warms my skin, my tail splitting into legs. I want to go to Kola, but I have to wait for the bones to split and join, for skin to grow over retreating scales. For the first time, I look down at myself in frustration and annoyance, wishing I didn't have to change, wishing I were still human. Kola frowns, his chest heaving as he catches his breath. What was that thing? Didn't you know the Ninki-Nanka was in the river? I ask Issa, finally able to get to my feet, my voice growing shrill. You said you scouted before. The Yumbo stares at me, eyes as round as the small golden suns, as he sniffs away tears. I am sorry, Simi. You are right. It is my fault. Issa takes a step away from us, tiny shoulders slumped in dejection. There is only one Ninki-Nanka in these waters, but it traverses the river as it sees fit, eating mainly fish. So you did know? I ask, my eyes narrowing as I walk unsteadily to Kola. And you still took us this way? How could you be so foolish? Kola could have been killed. The Yumbo hangs his head, plaits spilling over his eyes. This is the quickest route. I didn't think any of us would be in the river if the bridge hadn't broken. He presses the heels of his hands against his face. The Ninki-Nanka is usually in the mountain streams in the summer months, where it is cooler. Kola's wounds look mainly like severe bruising, but with a few puncture marks. I think of the Ninki-Nanka's teeth and shudder. I knew we shouldn't have taken you. I all but spit. I can't stop thinking about Kola in the mouth of the Ninki-Nanka. Anger pulses at the thought. We're alive, no harm done, says Kola, as he rolls into his knees, unable to get up, but crouching in the face of the Yumbo. I know you're trying to get us to Oko as fast as possible. That's not the point, Kola. I continue, unable to stop myself moving around, checking his body for more wounds. It was irresponsible. Simi, you'll get the rings. Now just stop being so hard. Shh, 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 shh. Kola shakes his head and winces, rocking back on his knees. Holding his side, he beckons to Isa, who shuffles closer. Whether the bridge broke or not, the Ninki Nanka might still have attacked. He lays a hand on the Yumbo's thin arm and tries to smile. You are an excellent guide, little one. Isa sniffs and moves toward Kola tentatively. You are not angry with me? No, and we would still have to cross the river at some point, Kola says, still slightly out of breath. The Ninki Nanka's teeth pierced his skin in several places, and the lacerations still ooze blood. I watch as he treats the wounds with gentle presses of his hand, trying to pretend that it doesn't hurt. Besides, I was extremely lucky. Look, only a few scratches. Kola murmurs to Isa, who is still looking up at him, his honey-colored eyes full of worry. For such a lucky person, you've needed rescuing quite a few times, I snap. What if I haven't been able to command the Ninki Nanka and overpower it? I wipe the creature's blood from my dagger on the grass. How did I miss its approach in the water? Annoyance and guilt wash over me. Perhaps you need to start thinking about being more careful, or you'll never make it home at this rate. As soon as the words leave my mouth, I regret them. I know that Kola is only trying to make Isa feel better, that the Ninki Nanka was an accident and something I should have sensed. I am angry, and I know it's because I'm scared. Scared not only of failing Umoja, but now of losing Kola. I want to go to him and examine his wounds properly, run my fingers over the creases of his ribs to see for myself that his injuries are not serious. Instead, I watch as he holds his side, anger in his eyes as he turns away from me, back to Isa, taking the Yumbo's hand. Kola's irritation at me cuts through my outrage, but I straighten up, scuffing my foot in the dirt. I won't feel bad about trying to keep them all safe. I think about the Ninki Nanka, about the land losing its balance and everyone dying along with it. I think about the vision I had, how it matched what the devil dragon said, and my fingers curl around the hilt of my dagger, so tightly that my nails dig into the flesh of my palms. I force myself to relax. Kola's right. It might still have attacked us. The main thing is that we're alive. Let's go, I murmur, sliding the dagger back into my hair, trying to stop my hands from shaking. The sooner we reach your village, the better. Hey guys, so I switched up the lighting a little so I could see better and sit back. I feel like overall this will be better, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started on chapter 14. He just ate, so yeah, this is his little pre-wiggle before we start, or before he falls asleep, so yeah. Shh, 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 shh. Chapter 14. We walk for half an hour in the growing twilight before we leave the sound of the river behind. Refreshed by the water, my feet are only slightly tender now, the bones of my ankles and knees moving with ease. The blackest part of the night has fully claimed the forest, creating shadows as dark as ink. Kola holds his hands to his side, and although the bite marks have stopped bleeding, they are angry red, the skin puffy. Some of the wounds on his back have opened up too, edges yellowing in a way that makes me anxious about infection and worried about Kola. Isa, I call. How much farther? Can we stop for a moment? The Yumbo runs back. Of course. Do you need water? Some food? Kola slumps beside a tree and I sigh, annoyed at myself for not thinking about this earlier. He clasps his left side, the same one that troubled him from the wreck. We need some of the abada powder your grandfather gave us, I say to Isa. Kola's hurt. Isa's eyes fill with concern. I'll mix them together right away. As the Yumbo hurries off to rummage in the sack, I extract the water skin and hold it out to Kola. Drink. He takes it from me without meeting my gaze, removing a hand from the side and sitting fully on the ground. One large swig, and he slumps back in relief. Eat. I unwrap a parcel of fish and pass him half. Kola lets out a short, exhausted laugh at my tone, and I smile a little. The shade from the tree darkens his face, but I can still see the lines of exhaustion that run between his eyes. Highlighted by the moon, Issa returns with a wooden cup full of a thick gray citrus-smelling paste. This will need to go on the wounds. Save a little at the end, mix it with more water, and then he will need to drink it. Thank you, little one. I bend down and make eye contact. He really is still a child, and I know he cares about Kola. Everything he has done has been to help us. Guilt wells as I think of the way I behaved after the Ninki Nanka. You're appreciated greatly. The Umbo smiles shyly, a large dimple appearing in his right cheek. I'm going to put some of this on your wounds, I say to Kola, and I scoop out the mixture as it tingles on my fingertips, glittering in the moonlight. He hisses as the medicine touches his skin. Tell me about your home, I say, hoping to distract him as I begin to pat the paste into his puncture marks. About your brother and sister. It is like most large villages, but mine is different. Kola turns to face me, the faint outline of a smile growing. It's special. How? Holding his shoulder carefully, I slide my fingers across the silk of his skin, examining the bite marks and the wounds that have reopened. Kola winces again, and irritation rises in me as I think about him trying to walk like this. He must have been in agony. My great-grandfather founded our village on the edge of the Oyo Kingdom, close to the river Ogun. We had the benefit of the sea as well as the river, and the land was so fertile that he named it after the Orisha of farming. My father is the head of the village, the son of the village leader. I can understand a lot of his behavior now, his sureness. I ease Kola sideways, and he twists his body for me, allowing me access to the rest of his wounds. The elephant of Oyo, at the time of my grandfather, was Onibogi. Impressed by our wealth, he gave us a bronze plaque that told the story of Oko's prosperity. My father still has it hanging from our compound wall. It's magnificent. He smiles. In the mid-afternoon sun, the carved figures and crops shine in a blaze of golden fire. Tell me more, I murmur. He looks over his shoulder at me. I swallow and force my gaze away from his mouth, shifting my body away from his. My mother used to sing her prayer of Olodumare when she prepared our food. She sang any time she had the chance. Her voice was low and sweet like fried coconut. He grins and turns back to face the forest. She would always make that for me if I was feeling sad. I imagine a woman with welcoming smile and a voice that fills the village and hearts of everyone listening. My brother and sister will wedge their sleeping mats next to mine, but I like to know they were next to me. It always helped me to sleep better. He looks at me again, this time shine as hoods, his eyes. I was allowed to choose their names. Taiwo came first, but Kahindi is wiser. It makes sense that she sent him out first in the world to scout ahead. She always waits before reacting. Whereas Taiwo, Kola raises an eyebrow. He's always charging into things, like the time they both decided they couldn't wait for me to take them out on my boat. Kahindi convinced him to sneak and hide, reasoning that once I had set off, I couldn't say no to them. Taiwo couldn't help himself, though. He popped up from their hiding place under the seats before I'd even pushed the boat from the shallows. Kahindi was furious with him for giving them away. I imagine a smaller version of Kola, hopping from foot to foot in excitement. What did you do? I ended up sailing out to the bluff, letting them have a little taste. Really, they were too young, but I wouldn't have let anything happen to them. Kola pauses, his voice dropping lower. I would never let anything happen to them. I move in front of him to cover the scratches on his chest and shoulders. Sweat glistens on his face as his smile wanes. My heart sinks at the expression that slips across his features. Longing. Fear. The wounds are covered and I push backward, reaching for the water skin. The paste in the bottom of the wooden cup mixes well with the water, and I offer it to Kola, holding my breath when the tips of our fingers touch. He grasps the cup in his hand, watching as I put more distance between us. Kola's expression is a careful blank, as if he doesn't care, but I catch the tightening of his mouth before he raises the cup to his lips. He downs the concoction in one long swallow, eyes still on mine. Setting the empty cup next to him, he clears his throat, leaning against the tree. What about you? What about your home? The question catches me off guard. What can I tell him? Of the mother with eyes the same shade of his? Of a father who taught me to wield a dagger? Of the glimpses of a city I can't fully remember, and comforting scent of fried plantain and hot rice? Of a past that the sea has swallowed? I can't remember most of it, I answer, my voice low, staring down at the tops of my feet. Not since I've become a mamiwata. Only parts. And if I were in the water, this wouldn't matter to me. I wouldn't feel the straining, this wanting to be someone else, something else. I can feel Kola watching me. You will. It's still all there, deep inside you. His simple words make my eyes burn with tears that I try to blink away. While the remembering can bring me comfort, it's always a reminder of a life I lost. Even the need to change, the draw of water, is another sign that I am different from Kola. We should rest now, he says quietly. You should rest, you mean, I whisper. Kola smiles, brown eyes crinkling, and shifts again closer to me. He still smells of a sea mixed with delicate, fiery spice of the fish we've eaten. For moments we watch each other. Slowly Kola's eyes begin to close, and his head droops so that it rests on my shoulder. I freeze, feeling the softness of his... I freeze, feeling the softness of his exhalations, regular and deep. His lips brush the slope of my upper arm, and the skin tingles at the contact. I can't remember anyone being this close to me before. Maybe my reaction is just that, a craving of human contact. And then I look down at Kola, the lines on his body against mine. I think of the love in his voice when he told me about his family, the earnestness of his words, and what I'm allowing right now. I am doing exactly what Umoja told me not to, getting close to Kola in ways I didn't think possible. Sighing, I lift my eyes to the sky, searching for the courting star. Lovers would use its nightly emergence to arrange secret trysts, something I will never be able to do with Kola. I want to place a hand on the boy's head, let myself stroke his black curls. Instead, I form a fist to stop myself. I mustn't allow myself to forget that I am of the sea and he is not. An hour passes and the forest grows full of the low calls of owls and the occasional grunts of baboons. I watch Kola rest, drinking in the pinkish-brown fullness of his bottom lip and the crescents of his thick eyelashes. He sleeps peacefully, mouth slightly open now, his hand warm against mine. Simi, whispers Isa, who has been dozing fitfully. We need to go if we are to get there before morning. Of course, I answer, shifting, feeling the knots in my muscles. I don't want to move to disturb Kola, but the Yumbo is right. Isa climbs over the tree roots and crouches in front of the boy, his eyes glowing in splashes of moonlight. How are you feeling? Kola sits up slowly, twisting to look at his side while I scan his back. All that is left of the bite marks and the other wounds are faint lines in his skin. He runs a hand over them, fingers tracing the puckered marks. How do you feel? I ask. Kola nods and straightens his back, grinning at us both. Well enough for us to keep going. Isa claps his delicate hands and does his best to tug Kola to his feet. He leans on me and I shift my weight, helping him up with a push from behind. Once he's standing, I brush twigs from my wrapper, looking anywhere but at him. Thank you for the medicine. I hear the smile in his voice, and for being very a very warm pillow. I can't hide the twitch of my lips as I gather our bag of supplies, nodding once at him as Issa capers before us. It's as if I can still feel the heat of him against me. I push the thought out of my head and take a deep breath, gripping the bag tighter, stretching my legs. "Come, Oko, this way," declares the Yumbo as he takes Kola's hand, pulling him. "Come, Oko is this way," declares the Yumbo as he takes Kola's hand, pulling him east through the trees. We walk through the rest of the night, our path lit by the low, bright moon. The air is still warm, but more comfortable now, the humidity swallowed by the dark. Giant moths swoop down, and Issa shoos them away. His face creased in annoyance. Screeches and calls of nighttime creatures have Kola's hand permanently on the hilt of his dagger. But nothing attacks us. As the sky begins to lighten, Issa slows his steps. Kola turns slowly, his brows furrowed. Oko is just beyond the next set of trees, after the hill. He twists and points in the other direction. The river runs back that way, opening out to the sea. This is good, yes? Kola doesn't reply, pausing in the spreading dawn. What if I'm too late? What if the ceremony didn't happen because of me? I allow myself to touch his arm, waiting until his eyes are on mine. You'll be home soon. Let's focus on that. Kola nods, although his frown remains. Reluctantly, I release his arm and sweep my gaze around the trees and ground, the blush of the sun lightening it all. Soon it will give way to fields of people and compounds. Oko, where I will leave Kola and journey on to the Babalao. I have kept my promise to take Kola back to his village, and now it's time I kept the one I made to Umoja. A burst of melancholy seeps in at the thought of leaving him, and I force myself to think of the chance I have to make things right with the Orisha and all the Mamawata. It's only as we draw closer to the outskirts of the forest that I notice the thinning trees and the plants that surround them. A few are still green, vibrant even in the cloak of early dawn, but the rest are brown, with a few twisted branches. We stop, and my body goes rigid as I survey the land. Blackened with disease and death, I think of the Ninki Nanka and wipe my mouth. A feeling of disquiet burrowing deeper inside me as I take in the dying earth. And dying it is. Even the flowers on the twisted limbs are desiccated husks, their brittle petals succumbing to the wind. Grass still reaches up to our knees, but it is dry, the edges like blades, quick to slice our skin. Kola turns in a half circle, lips thinned in anxiousness. It wasn't like this a few weeks ago. Perhaps it's something in this part of the forest, I say. Come, let's keep moving. We're practically there. The sun breaks free from the distant tree line as we crest the hill, spilling its pale cherry glow into the village below. Cows are huddled together under a few dead and wizened trees, and the corn is a dark brown. A sense of familiarity slows my steps, my brain whirring as I take in the hills that roll into fields. Blackened branches grasp at the skies, dying trees hanging over the heaps of crops ruined and rotting. My vision. The land ahead of us is identical to what I saw. Bile rises and I swallow it down. We're still too far away to see properly, but already it looks as if the vegetation of the village is suffering the same fate as that of the forest. Beyond the corn, tan walls and thatched roofs make up the many compounds that circle around one another, and Kola walks faster toward them. It's still standing, he says, joy flooding his tone. Perhaps we should be cautious, I say. A few figures stand spaced evenly outside the village walls, and something about them makes me feel uneasy. They hold themselves stiffly. I see the occasional glint of sunlight in the bright metal of blades. These are not just any villagers. They are on guard. Issa, let me carry you. Kola picks up the Yumbo, who climbs into the sack. He smiles down at the boy as Issa nods, folding his knees and arms. Yumbos are tales of the storyteller to the people in Oko. I do not mind. See? Issa snuggles down, looking about the size of a large yam. Kola holds the sack loosely so that plenty of air can get in and heads off toward the outer fields of Oko. Dread snakes through my blood with every quickened beat of my heart. Our path takes us through the crops of corn, plantain, and cassava. Although they are still alive, the stems and leaves are wilted, with patches of brown and black among the plants. We draw closer, our feet kicking up small puffs of red earth from the path as we scan the village walls. No greetings are called out, no children run to welcome us, just darting figures that are blurs in the early light. My throat tightens and I reach out, snagging Kola by his hand. He slows, scanning the perimeter just as an arrow lands in the earth in front of us. Kola staggers, almost falling as I catch him, pushing him back upright with the strength that surprises me in the present form. What is this? They're shooting at me? Kola is incredulous, but I scramble further back, trying to drag him with me. He cradles the sack and follows, but he eyes the village walls angrily, his other hand on the sword. They haven't seen you in a long time, I say, checking on Isa. The Yambo has curled himself into a ball, eyes tightly shut. I reach inside and give his hand a quick squeeze. Wouldn't you be cautious too? Kola takes a deep breath, his chest heaving as he calms himself. He eases backward slowly and makes a show of placing his weapon on the floor before straightening up fully. Watching the guards who gather in front of the tall wooden gates, I go with him, careful not to make any sudden movements. 2 people peel away from the rest, loping down the main path, gates long and easy. The guard on the left is almost twice the size of the one on the right, and carries a sword almost half the length of my body. In the other's grip, I can make out the flash of 2 blades, axes. My fingers twitch, wanting to go to the emerald hilt tight against my braids. Kolo focuses on the guards and suddenly breaks into a sprint, arms held open. What are you doing? I say, lurching forward in panic. I pull at my hair, fumbling with the dagger, but by the time I manage to yank it free, they are upon him. Arakola, cries a huge guard, grasping Kola with both arms. Bam! So this is how you welcome me home, by shooting at me? With his wrapper of onyx black and burnished straps of leather to hold his weapons crisscrossed over his chest, the smile that splits the face of the imposing giant guard looks out of place. Holding Kola away from him, Ben lifts up his head and releases a deep laugh into the sky. We are blessed. We are blessed. Yinka? Did I not tell you that he would come back to us? The guard's bald head gleams in the sun, matched by the head of the girl standing next to him. Tall, with long limbs that move with the grace of a leopard, she regards me with wide-set eyes. The lack of hair only accentuates high cheekbones and the arc of her neck. Yinka's wrapper is the same black as Bem's, but cinched, tight around her chest and waist. The same polished leather straps wrap around her shoulders, tight against the skin that shines like the midnight sky. She keeps her eyes on me in a firm grip of the golden axes in each hand as she squeezes Kola to her. You did, Bem, she answers, her voice light and even. There is a cool assessment in the gaze she turns on me that makes me want to shrink back. I lift my chin instead. Kola puts his arms around them both. Their heads come together, Bem bending low for a moment. There is silence as they grip one another's shoulders. When they pull away, Kola looks from one to the other. Is Oko well? The Tapa didn't attack again? They didn't, but after you were taken, your father ordered us to launch an assault upon them anyway. Ben pauses, brows low over his eyes. Yinka opens her mouth to speak, but Bem cuts her off. Wrapping his arm around Kola's shoulders and steering him toward the village gates. Come, he says gently. It's a long story best told by your father. Kola nods and then turns to me, motioning me forward. I walk over to him, and Yinka's face shimmers with something else I don't quite understand. Bem, Yinka, this is Simidele. Without her, I wouldn't be here now. As they exclaim in blessings of Olodumare and Ogun, I don't take my eyes off Kola. There is still a glaze of anxiety over my thoughts. While this is what I wanted, the thought of going any further without him makes me feel somehow off balance. Besides, seeing him with Inga and Bem, how close they are, makes it even more obvious how much I don't belong. I think of the press of Kola next to me when he was resting, and then Yamoja's words of her warning not to get close to humans. I'm beginning to understand what she was trying to tell me, how it hurts to feel, knowing that you will have to leave them. I stop and raise my voice, cutting through the clutter. Now that you're here, I'll be on my way. If you'll just point me in the Babalao's direction, I'll find him. Kola lets Bem's arm fall from his shoulder and crosses the short distance between us. His eyes are on mine, flicking over my face and down to my feet. I said I'd take you, and I will. Kola moves closer, and I fight the urge to back up. His hand encircles the top of my arm gently, and I feel the burn of heat across my chest again. I'll keep my promise, if it's all the same to you. I turn away and stare in the direction of the sea, and then back at the walls of Oko, anywhere but at Kola's face. Simi, he says my name softly, and I can't help but snatch another look at him. You've done so much for me that I can't even begin to know how to pay you back. Taking you to the Babalao is at least a start. His fingers slide down my arm as he releases me, and I fight not to shiver at his touch. Please. I look at his mouth as he says my name and nod, unable to trust my voice. Kola waits until I move by his side before he starts down the path to the walls of his village. As we draw closer, the dark wooden gates of Oko seem to ripple with images, and when we reach them, my legs weaken with a rush of foreboding. The door on the left side depicts the sea, with fish, sharks, and whales, each scale and tooth and eye scored delicately into the surface. The right side shows the produce of Oko's land, with unending fields of corn, plantain, and cassava, leaves and stems and flowers looking as real as the vegetation behind us. The gates are the ones in my vision. Was I wrong earlier to hope that the hills and the fallen crops I saw were different from those in my mind? The carved sides of the gates stretch from one smooth tan wall to another, but Bem is large enough to reach both, muscles bulging. Will he throw them wide upon the corpses of Oko's villagers? Simi, are you all right? Kola asks, his hand hovering near my elbow. I manage to nod, wiping at the beads of cold sweat that drip down my forehead. Don't be nervous. We'll stop and then be on our way to the Babalao. I can't speak. I hold my breath as the gates swing smoothly open onto the main thoroughfare. Lit by the early morning sunlight, the villagers of Oko are stirring, and the streets are full of women with calabashes of water and freshly harvested crops. Gathering together, they make their way to the market that is being set up in the square in the center. I release the breath I have been holding, letting the hand clasped to my chest fall back to my side. Alive. The people are alive. A few brown crops doesn't necessarily mean anything. I try to relax as we make our way down the wide main path. The polished walls of the compound spiral away, each an exact replica of the others, decorated with horizontal ridge designs, as well as images of the warriors of Oko and tales of their fishing prowess. The walls tell stories of success and power. As we walk down the main road, heading to Kola's family's compound, women and men bow, lowering their goods and calabashes, touching the ground near his feet. Children call out their pleasure, bending into respectful poses when reminded. We join the flow of people who head toward the market space, goods in hand and woven baskets on heads. Carts are full of corn, yams, freshly slaughtered carcasses of goats, cages of chickens. Although the market should be open soon, I see that a few of the sellers are grouped together in the corner of the stalls, not bothering to sit up yet. As we walk past, they don't look up, preoccupied with their frowns and with the goods they poke around on a trestle table. Craning my neck around Yinka, I see that the corn they have is brown with a gentle rot that can be smelled from where I am. A fisherman approaches them and holds up a tiny catch, dull scales that fail to sparkle in the morning light. My mood dips again, apprehension threading through it. Yinka looks in the direction I am staring in and narrows her eyes, faltering for a moment before carrying on behind Kola. As we walk around the market, we pass an old man sitting in the entranceway of the house, his faded green wrapper tucked around skin folded with age and sprinkled with dark spots from the sun. Chickens cluck from the hutch next to him, their brown feathers drifting in the growing heat of the morning. The elder sucks on an ivory pipe that resembles a tiny leopard, releasing a thin trail of smoke before glancing up at Kola and nearly dropping it. "Praise Ogun," he exclaims, shock and pleasure twisting his wrinkled face into a smile. "Look who has returned to us." Kola nods and grins in his direction, lifting a fist to his heart. "Yes, uncle." "It is good to see you back." The old man collects his composure, and a shadow slides across his expression. "Go straight to your parents. Go now," he calls again, as Kola hurries his steps and I rush to keep up. People continue to dip and bow to Kola as he rushes to his family compound. Flanked by Bem and Yinka, I quicken my steps as I follow them. The red clay walls of Kola's home gleam from the pathway as he passes me the sack containing Isa. I set the bag on the floor against one of the outer arches. "You can come out soon, little one," I whisper. Kola passes by the bronze panels depicting Ogun, their surfaces shining. On them, the Orisha is shown with glowing swords and scales to represent the justice he oversees. An altar is arranged beneath the panels, with offerings set on it of palm wine, kola nuts, one large rooster, and 2 yams. We follow closely behind Kola, pausing as he steps into the central courtyard. He spins slowly to face each of the 4 walls of his family quarters, arms hanging down at his sides as if he can't believe he's actually home. Just as he turns back to smile at us, a loud wail rends the air. A woman, her plumpness straining at the complicated folds and knots of her white wrapper, rushes into the courtyard, a matching pristine head wrap framing her oval face. She raises her hands to cup her nose and mouth, but the gesture does nothing to temper the sound of her cry, or the tears that run down her cheeks. Kola rushes to her side as the woman staggers, falling to her knees, sobbing. He skids when he reaches her, sinking to the ground as her arms stretch partway around his back. "Aya," I hear him grasp as the woman pulls him down against her, sobbing into his neck. "Adakola, you are alive," she cries, her fingers fluttering against his tear-stained cheeks as he kisses her forehead. "Praise Ogun. I have prayed for this for weeks, and here you are." She holds him away from her so she can look at him, her eyes still glazed with tears, and she smiles through them. "Here you are." "Aya, why are you wearing white?" Kola pulls away from her grip and looks around the courtyard. His voice grows thinner with concern. "What's happened? Who has passed?" Kola's mother doesn't answer. She gets to her feet, pulling her son with her and smoothing her wrapper, trying to brush off some loose dirt that clings to the fabric. "Where's Baba? And Taiwo and Kahindi?" I see Bem and Yinka look at each other as they stand next to me. Before both look down at the tightly packed earth, fear draws an icy veil over me that is at odds with the growing heat of the morning. I rub my palms on my wrapper. "I am here," answers Kola's father, stepping into the courtyard from his quarters opposite. "And glad to see you home." Nearly as tall as his son, and with the same shade of dark reddish-brown skin, he doesn't smile. His white wrapper is stark, immaculate, and tied crisply, a matching fila atop his head. Thick gold rings shine on every one of his fingers. Kola's father gathers his son to him, pressing his forehead against his, blinking rapidly. We thought we had lost you. Kola clasps his father by the shoulders, his fingers digging deep as he holds back some tears. He nods instead, and I see his hands shake as he releases the older man. Where's Taiwo and Kahindi? Kola's mother turns her face away and she sobs, growing as she clutches herself. Baba, where are they? Shh, shh, shh. There is silence in the courtyard as the rising sun sears the compound, flashing upon glazed eyes and teeth that are bared in both grief and fear. Kola balls his hands into fists, his mouth pressed into sudden flat lines. Will somebody tell me where my brother and sister are? Sure, okay. Gone, says Kola's father, his voice low and hoarse. Taken last night. So that was chapters 13 and 14. I'm only going to read 2 this video because they were longer chapters. And I'll work on some more this week. But yeah, I hope everybody is happy, healthy, and safe wherever you are in the world. And thank you for joining me again. I think we're like halfway through the book. There's, I think, 27 chapters or something. But okay, I hope you all have a great day, night, and I will see you on the next one.